So I want to take a few minutes and just show you an example of the import process for Excel. A lot of times the data that we get is not in a simple Excel format, and we have to convert it into that format so that we can do our manipulations and our calculations and those types of things. So we see that I've got the website Kaggle open, and Kaggle has a lot of data sets, and then it does some competitions with data analytics and machine learning and things like that. So it might be something you're interested in looking into as you go through this program. So I've chosen the data set NYC property sales, and as it's described here, it's a year's worth of properties sold in the New York City real estate market. And if you scroll down, you can see several bits of information about the data, the context, the content, acknowledgments, and so forth. And near the bottom, you can see what this data actually has in it. So you can see a summary of the data for the first column, for the borough, for the neighborhood, building class, and so forth. And notice here it tells you that there are 10 of 22 columns displayed, and you can display and select all of the columns that you want to show in this particular format. So if I wanted to select all of those columns, then I should be able to scroll to the right now and see all of these columns listed. Okay, so how do I get the data? First thing I want to do is click on the download option. When I click download, we see that it downloads an archive.zip file, and I'm going to transfer that archive zip file over to my folder here. And let me just rearrange some things for a moment. So I have copied that archive file into this folder, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say extract all. I think I clicked extract all. There we go. Okay, it is asking me where do I want to extract it. I'm just going to extract it into the current location, module 2, so I took off the archive 4, otherwise it would have created another folder, and I don't want that. I just want it to be right there in this particular folder. So now we see that the data is there, NYC rolling sales.csv. And we can see that it is a file that is 12.9 megabytes, so it's fairly sizable. Now, how do we get that into Excel? So let's open Excel, and we just have an empty workbook located here. Let me do that. Okay, so I'm going to go to File and Open. Going to browse to the file that I just unzipped and select it. And it is a CSV file, so it understands what that means in raw format. So I want to take just a second and look at what that file looks like in another program. So let's open it up in a program called Notepad++. And we see here that this is what the file actually looks like, because it has all of this information. It is in comma separated value format, and notice all of these commas. Every time you see a comma, that means that that particular comma is a separator between different columns that are in Excel. So if we do a side-by-side comparison here with this in Excel, we look in the first row and we see a blank before the comma. There's nothing there, so we notice that cell A1 is blank. Then we see borough here, B2. Then we see neighborhood, I'm sorry, B1, and then C1 is neighborhood, and then building, and so forth. If we look at the next line, we see a 4 followed by a 1, and then alphabet city, rentals, walk-up apartments, that's what it says, then a comma, and 2A here. So that is how Excel understands the contents of a CSV file. Now, this is actually, on the left side, is what the data looks like. So this is not an Excel formatted file. In order to get this to an Excel formatted file, we have to do something special. So we have to save it as a format that Excel can understand. So otherwise, all of our formatting, all of our formulas, and everything like that will be lost in translation, because this is simply a text file that has comma separated values. So to get the Excel portion of that, we have to say File, and we have to say Save As, and I'm going to browse to our current location. And notice we have to save as type. So instead of CSV, we want to select Excel Workbook. So now, when we click Save, that should be an Excel format. So we look at the file at the top, and we see NYC rolling sales.xlsx. So now that is an Excel formatted file that will allow us to do all of the formulas and everything like that. So I'm going to jump over to the PowerPoint for just a moment and explore some of these data sets. Okay, so notice here that this is just a list of the data sets. Okay, and there are particular types of data that we can probably discern just by looking at the spreadsheet itself. So the first thing we probably notice is that there are text values. So neighborhood is a text value, building class category, tax class at present. These are all text-based values. So if we look at that and consider that, then what we would have is, in our spreadsheet, we said neighborhood is a text-based field. So we see that has text values in it. We said building class category is, and that has text values in it. We said tax class at present has text values. Well, if you notice, the A's and the B's there, those are text values, not numeric values, so that has to be a text field. The other ones that we have, building class at present here, those have text fields. Address has text fields. We said apartment number, but there's not really any data in apartment number, but you can imagine that you might have apartments like 100-A, 100-B, or something like that, which would be text values. And then the building class at the time of sale. Building class at the time of sale is also text values. Now, another type of value that we can think of would be text-like numeric values. So these are values that are not used in calculations, but they are numeric nonetheless. So the examples there would be the ID number that we have, the borough number. So you wouldn't do calculations on borough. You wouldn't add up the borough numbers. You wouldn't add up the ID numbers. But they are still numeric values. The same is true for block, lot, easement, zip code, year built, tax code at time of sale, and so forth. The last type that we're going to look at here is, well, these are numeric or date values, and we can use those for calculations. So residential units, the number of residential units, the number of commercial units, the number of total units, the land square feet, the gross square feet, and then the sale price and the sale date. Now, if we look back in Excel, we can see that all of these are numeric values. There's a hyphen here, and hyphens usually mean it's a zero or doesn't exist. So we can do a simple find and replace to change that to a zero if we want. But if we look at sale date, we see that it's a bunch of pound signs right now. So when you see a bunch of pound signs, you have to expand that column. So if we expand the column, we can now see the contents of that column, which is formatted as a date. And notice it says custom format here. You can change those formats in this particular area for numeric values. So this one is a date, and if we look at more formats, then we see that it's formatted as a date with month, day, year, and then time. If we want to ignore the time, then we can simply change that to a date and change it to year, month, day. And we can change the formatting for all of those at the same time if we want, and say short. We can select more number formats. We want a date, and we're changing all of them to this. And then if we double click it, it shrinks it down to the size of the column.